In the early days of World War I, the skies were a new and untamed battlefield. Pilots were pioneers, part daredevil, part soldier, risking their lives in fragile machines of wood and canvas. This is the story of what it was like to be a World War I pilot. Most of these men were barely in their 20s. Many had never even driven a car before they were asked to fly. Training was rushed. Some received only a few hours of instruction before being sent into combat. Others learned in the air, or didn't survive long enough to learn at all. A World War I aircraft was nothing like the steel warbirds of today. These planes were made of thin wooden frames covered in fabric. The cockpits were open, with no protection from the cold, the wind, or enemy bullets. The engines were unreliable, sometimes catching fire mid-flight. And the wings? They could snap under the stress of high-speed turns. Flying was terrifying. At high altitudes, temperatures could drop below freezing. Pilots wore thick leather coats, gloves, and scarves, but frostbite was common. The roar of the engine was deafening, and the wind threatened to rip goggles from their faces. And if something went wrong, well, there were no parachutes. If your plane caught fire or was shot down, you had two choices: ride it to the ground or jump to your death. Aerial combat, what we now call dogfighting, was a brutal game of survival. Pilots didn't have radar or computers. They relied on instinct, skill, and a bit of luck. The first air battles were fought with pistols and rifles, but soon machine guns were mounted on the planes, synchronized to fire through the propeller. But these guns could jam at the worst possible moment, leaving a pilot helpless in battle. Every mission could be a pilot's last. The average life expectancy of a new pilot in 1916 was just 11 days. But for those who survived, the thrill of the skies was unmatched. Flying offered a strange sense of freedom, even in the midst of war. Some pilots described it as the closest thing to being a bird, soaring high above the world, away from the mud and blood of the trenches below. Friends didn't always return, and those who did were often haunted by what they had seen and what they had done. By the end of the war, aerial combat had changed warfare forever. What began as simple reconnaissance turned into a deadly new form of battle, one that would only grow more advanced and more destructive in the wars to come.